With the climate in the Pokemon card market today, it's really interesting to see how some things are actually starting to trickle down in price, but I want to take a step and look at a few that have been growing in a little bit more of a steady fashion. We're looking at single cards from the X and Y era as well as Sun and Moon, and these are specifically promos. Let's dive in. Now, to those of you who collect promo cards, it's actually interesting to go back a few generations that you may not have been introduced to if you weren't a part of the hobby at that time. There's a lot of interesting different cards, some, cheaper than others, of course. A lot of different artworks, and I think things that probably at the time of them being released was like, who cares? And now that we have years later, they can become a little bit more interesting. Maybe it's a favorite Pokemon like a Latios. This is a really interesting artwork, even though it's not a full card artwork like you have on this Arceus, okay? But spending $3 to $5 on a card might be a little bit better in your budget. You could go on and on for a while. There are pages, 26 pages just on TCG Player alone for these two different eras of promo cards only. It's pretty fantastic to see how much is out there, and I've pulled out a selection of cards. Some are on the higher end price, I think, but really it was just what's selling well lately, so what is being sought after in the hobby, and kind of looking at a trend of growth. So we can jump right in with this one of my favorites actually from both of those eras combined. It's a Sun and Moon promo from Hidden Fates, the Moltres Zapdos Articuno GX, and this is actually the promo card that comes in the Hidden Fates ETB, so you can get this with the cellophane on it wrapped, and right now it's sitting at a cool $50, all right? About a year ago, it was $18, and I was looking for reasonable price promos about a year and a half ago, and I was able to pick it up at the $16 to $18 range, something like that, and I really didn't think it was going to be something that would take off, and it didn't. It didn't take off. Let's put a little asterisk with that phrasing there, because the point of this particular video today and what we're analyzing on this market is that it's not a straight shot of growth. Yes, we came into a boom, but October was starting to go up. Why? Well, you can't get Hidden Fates. It doesn't exist. They don't print it anymore. All right, then November it's going up because there's popularity and people are trying to open things, and there's plenty of sealed out there, but the more people that get into the hobby looking for interesting stuff, the higher things go, and this would be considered affordable when other things were getting difficult. People were going after Surging Sparks, getting ready for Prismatic, and then working their way into Journey Together and so on. But you could go back and see some of these good pickups that were worthwhile, that were interesting cards. Maybe fan favorites like the Legendary Birds would be a good one to think about. And yes, it's had a nice steady growth. It hasn't been a crazy spike anywhere, but a steady growth working its way up to $50. Will it maintain that? I don't know. And it's really not important at this point in time, but there seems to be a little bit of a leveling off, a little jump up. Maybe it's going to be heading to a level off, and that growth is going to slow down, which is a good sign, because you start seeing that cards over time do okay. Yes, things will spike, especially Modern right now, will spike when it comes out. There's a little bit of a FOMO. Things might cool off. There could be a new spike coming up for something like Destined Rivals. Let's take a look back at something also similar era there, the Sun and Moon, going with the Umbreon and Darkrai. Well, Umbreon's popular, so of course it's going to have a big price tag on it. And this one has a little bit more of an accelerated growth because the evolutions, you have to kind of relate to what else is going on. The Prismatic Evolution set coming out, another popular evolution here paired with Darkrai, kind of cool. And it's really shot up over the last year. It's at $121, where just a year ago it was $32. And this kind of gives you an idea of how to think of things moving forward. When you have a card like that was $32 and now it's up that high, well, not all of them are going to perform like that, but you can get stuff that you like in a more modern era, and it might not be crazy, but it has potential to go somewhere. For instance, the Charizard EX out of the Scarlet and Violet promos here that we had on the Paldean Fates, all right? So the shiny set, Paldean Fates, and this one did spike. We were a $5, $6, $7 card for a little while in here, $6, $5, yeah, not too bad. And then it spiked up here to almost $10, and then it's been pretty slow growing after that, which is actually a good thing. I don't know if we're going to see a bunch of reprints on these tins with the promos. I don't know if we're going to have a lot of opportunity for this one. If anything, the Paldean Fates will slow down. There might be a resurgence if things cool off. If there's a catch-up from Pokemon Company, we'll have to see. But it's Charizard. You can safe bet that over time, maybe not in the next year, but in the next 5 or so, this will grow in price. All right, it's not going to be a $12 card forever. It probably doesn't have much of a chance of tanking anytime soon either. So looking ahead and thinking how you can expand your collection, a $12 card right now isn't that bad, to be honest. Maybe it's even $10, $11, okay, not too bad. So you might be able to work out a deal in a card shop, a card show, something like that, but you can always pick it up on eBay or TCG Player or things like that and probably find it relatively affordable as far as prices go these days. And know that if you hold it long enough, it'll probably increase in price. I have a couple in my collection because it's Charizard, because I liked to collect the promos with the sets, and this was me kind of retooling how much do I really want to go here. I don't have any other promos from this set other than the ETB, I think, so I didn't really go full on and get the other tin promos or anything like that, even though those were more available at the time, and it really was just getting a little bit more selective, and it just putting the bet, hedging your bets on Charizard is not a bad one to do. This one would be a beautiful one to add to any collection. Super difficult to find it in any great condition because the way they were packaged was horrible on this Armored Mewtwo, a Sun and Moon promo. But look at that beautiful growth. It's just a nice, steady growth over time. We're catching into a little boom and a hype of Pokemon there, but it's just a small spike. It's not wild. It's not insane here. Continuing kind of in that same, okay, we might have overpriced this, a little recovery, and now we're back into that growth. So if you can average this out, we do have a pretty solid line right here that this up and coming back down, it would even things out quite a bit. So it's been growing steadily because they don't print it. It's not going to be easy to find. Condition on this one, very difficult. So even a moderate condition goes a long way. If you call it near mint, you're not going to get a 10. Like 99 times out of 100, you won't get a 10 as far as a grading on it in any way because the packaging on it was so terrible. There would always be a corner. There would always be a whitening. There would always be a scratch. There's something going on. If you find something and you really believe it's a 10 on this card, you found yourself a real gem, because the best case scenario in most of them is going to be in the 8, maybe 9 range on, like, say, PSA grading. So just keep that in mind, and knowing what you're looking at and what you should expect. The Armored Mewtwo near mint, I wouldn't expect it to be better than a PSA 8, and it'd probably have some funky centering and a bit of a chipped corner or something, and they would call that near mint because this card is so rarely very mint to what we would consider mint in a lot of today's standards. Blastoise EX, X and Y promo. Let's move along a little quicker. We've had some acceleration in that time, but really this is kind of how all the things are go. There's another view of this chart for a lot of this era of promos, but I think as we get going, another 2-3 years, we'll start seeing these things either leveling off or just having a slow and steady growth here. I'm not really in on a Blastoise at this point in time for that kind of price. Moving along to a Charizard here, this one has a little bit better trend because of the slope here not being as steep, a little bit more forgiving in how that's grown up to $83. Again, Charizard tax, you're always going to have that associated with one of the greats, but then you have that little addition, and if you didn't see it, it's that Flareon over here. You have that Magmar over there. You got a little bit of extra going on in this one, and maybe just the recent spikes with Prismatic are being hosted in that Flareon's addition to this Charizard EX. We have the Pikachu EX here from an X and Y promo. Really cool card. We actually had an up and then coming quite down a bit here. Of course, when the price goes down, the sales go up, and you can see that reflected in the bar graph behind. And then it leveled off, and now we got some growth again happening. I wish we could extrapolate some of these to a 3, 4, 5 year kind of data set. I know that'd be a lot more for TCG Player to take on, to expand that out and have that option. A lot of cards at this point, a lot of them won't even have that option. I mean, we look at something new like Journey Together, and we're like, you don't even want to look at it because it's a week old. Why look at the 1 month on that? You got to give it some time before you see any real trends happening there. But that Pikachu EX there, looking good. Another electric types there. You have an Evolution and an Electabuzz. That's cool with the Jolteon as well. $170, is that right? No, we're saying $143, but you got to go into the actual listings, and you really are at about $172, $173 on that one. This is what I call the derpy EVGX, because that is just a ridiculous artwork of an Eevee, like we saw with the Pikachu, with all the different Pikachus in it, and that V-Union Pikachu. It'd be cool to see something like that with another popular Pokemon like Eevee or others. You know, there's a lot of them out there. A lot of growth here, very quick and a little bit more rapid than some of the others, and it could be attributed to Evolution, Eevee going into that prismatic, reflective state there, that anything that was associated in any way, started climbing, and we're sitting at $65 on this one here in particular. This is the other graph I wanted to show you. There's a lot of them that have this leaning spike up, and it does, I mean, some are way more severe, but this is a little bit more of a cooled off version of it. This Pikachu Sun and Moon promo 162, the Pikachu kind of looking at a Mimikyu, Very nice little dichotomy there. You have it peaking up at $32 about, and that wasn't that long ago, and now it's starting to slope back down. Well, this is going to be a little bit of recovery because I think it might be an overspend for a lot of people just trying to pick up something. Anything Pokemon is great. Anything Pikachu is going to be awesome. Anything Charizard is going to be fire. Absolute pun intended. You know, you're going to have all those people who don't know much about the hobby and they haven't been in it long enough that they're just spend. They think they're hitting gold, but that's not really the case. You need to look at the trends prior to your entry and see where was it really going. Are you the one beefing it up? And now it needs to recover and cool off, and then time will tell, and it will start to grow over time on there. Palkia full art promo from X and Y promos here. Good strong growth right here. We do have a little bit of an increased slope because the demand for Pokemon overall has been higher, but this is the kind of slope you want to see. This is a real-time growth and the increase that you see because the availability is down, the exchange is down, people who want it are getting it, they're putting it in their collection, now they hold, and the only way you get it is somebody giving it up out of their collection. They're not printing these anymore, so it becomes a little bit harder to find. There's still tons of them out in the world, but it becomes harder to find with time, just like anything else. Lunala GX, my goodness, fumbling over what I'm saying here. Lunala GX, Sun and Moon promo, a gold card, very simplistic. I really like the style of this. Not my favorite Pokemon, not one I would be interested in. It looks like because of the price point, people are just jumping to anything they can get their hands on, and this spike is what I'm seeing a lot of. I was trying to pull out a lot of different cards, and I was seeing a few trends, a very severe spike up with a little bit of a quick recovery recently, or this ridiculous spike, and I want to kind of show you that along with that Pikachu earlier, showing the two different charts I'm seeing. The other ones either show a little bit more of a realistic growth over time, and yes, a little bit of an emphasized growth in the more recent months, backing, from like November 2024. But here we go in a, $3-4 card a year ago, up to a 10, 11, a little bit higher dollar card at that point, but still kind of in that affordable range that maybe you're buying on a little bit of a bubble, but if you hold it long enough, again, time heals all things. What do I say about patience on this channel, right? Magikarp X and Y promo. Who wouldn't love a good Magikarp? This is the growth I'm talking about that I think is a little bit more reasonable, and then it levels off because the market says, you know what, I think it's enough, it grew, and then you'll get a new surge of hype. The past year has been really bouncing off of the fact that Magikarp coming out of Paldea Evolved really emphasized the Pokemon, otherwise not exciting Pokemon, right? But interesting card for sure in that Paldea Evolved, and then people start looking elsewhere. What other Magikarps are interesting? This is an interesting one. This X and Y promo, it's interesting. Caught my eye once upon a time. I did buy it back a year and a half ago or something like that. Just thought it was neat. Didn't really need to go crazy. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that, I was contemplating, I feel like I should niche down and just pick a Pokemon and start collecting, and Magikarp kept crossing my mind as something I should have just gone after because it seemed like a Pokemon no one else would really specifically collect. I thought it'd be fun to do that, and I didn't do it. And now I'm kind of kicking myself because a lot of different Magikarp cards have gone up, and it would have been fine to go out on a limb and spend a little bit more for something like that Paldea Evolved full art or illustration rare, especially upon release when it was much more reasonably affordable, just to add to my theoretical collection that I never started. And then I'd have a really cool set of cards now. So the reality of that little story is it's never too late to start. If you think of something like that, if you are thinking that's what you want to do and put a little bit more passion and emphasize it into one little lane, kind of niche down, go for it. Just do it. Find the time and make it happen so that way you can kind of slowly build into that specific collection, especially if it speaks to you in some way, because then you'll look back after something like this where it's far out of print, it's really hard to come by in any typical setting. I wouldn't see this very often in a local game store or even a card show, so you're not going to find it very easily, even though they're available, they're out there, and then you can kind of look back and go, wow, that was a really cool addition, and now it's a fun collection overall. Last one on the list today is Ash's Pikachu. There's actually a lot of different variations of Ash's Pikachu from this time period. This is actually the least expensive one, but I like this chart here just to give you an idea that while it seems like things are spiking up, once upon a time it was actually even higher than it is now. So you can look at that and go, okay, not all things go up over time, especially something as popular as like Pikachu, you would think so, and retiring Ash from the anime, you'd think that this would have a lot more growth, but it doesn't. It actually is a little bit down from once it was a year ago, and that low point would have been nice to be a part of it, right? But guess what? It is trending down, so maybe it's worth keeping an eye out and looking at it. It's an interesting card for sure to add to your collection. Nice little background there. Very simple. And then, of course, you know, you have the addition of it being Pikachu and Ash's Pikachu with a little extra stamp there, the I choose you. So kind of fun stuff, a little bit different, and in that affordable range. There's a lot of them that are affordable, and over time, enough time, it will go up. Maybe not crazy, not everything is gold in this hobby, but you can get it to be more like silver or bronze, where it's going to have increased value. Just got to give it a little bit of love and hold on to it for a few years and you know, guide it there, right? I want to remind everybody I'm doing that giveaway once I reach 5,000 subscribers. It's the Brilliant Stars Elite Trainer Box being giveaway, along with 5 Pokemon mystery card lots. All of those are going out to 6 lucky winners. All you have to do is be a part of the channel. You got to take that extra step and make sure you like the video, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. And more specifically, you want to take that additional step. All of that stuff is valuable, and I need you to be a subscriber so we can reach that 5,000. But you need to take that additional step and go over to this video here. That's where I'm compiling all of the comments for that 5,000 subscriber giveaway. I do post 7 days a week, and with that, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.